Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. Labor Day weekend. A little bit of extra time off of school for some of us. You get a little rest and sleep. That's right, Peter. We all need that after school, even if we don't think we do. Anyways, we are studying in 1 Samuel, where we have been the last few weeks studying the life of David and how he interacts with Saul. We left off with David fleeing. He had to run away, he had to flee, he had to get away. We talked about how he stopped, talked to a priest, was able to get some resources from him. Yeah, he needed some food. That's right, Peter. He was hungry. So we're picking up with David essentially on the run. I'm going to read for you 1 Samuel 22, verse 1. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thitherto. So his family hears this is where David is, and so they go there. But not just his family goes there. If we look in verse 2, David's going to get quite a following. And everyone that was in distress. What does distress mean? Basically, they're in trouble. Anybody who's having a hardship or a hard time. And it goes on and says, and everyone that was in debt. So debt, those who owe money. And everyone that was discontented gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. 400 men started to follow David at that cave. So they wanted to go and they wanted to be with David. David was a great leader, a great follower, so he becomes captain over their 400. Well, Saul finds out that David's gone. Saul kind of finds out. Jonathan and David had met, they'd made a plan, and Saul's like, why didn't anyone tell me? And he's all mad at his servants. He's like, why didn't you tell me David left? Why didn't you tell me about about David and about Jonathan? And Saul's upset. Well, there's a man sitting there who we have mentioned, but you would have to reach back a couple weeks. We mentioned a man named Doeg. Well, Doeg, he's sitting there and he's like, wait a minute, I'm going to be on Saul's side. I'm going to step up. I'm going to say something. Do you remember where Doeg was for him to have eavesdropped on what David was doing? So, again, this is not from today. This is a bit ago. David had gone to Ahimelech, the priest, and he had gotten help from him. Well, when he had gotten help from him, Doeg was there. Doeg had heard what Ahimelech had given to David. So Doeg steps up. He's like, Saul, Ahimelech, the priest, helped out David. And David gets, I keep mixing up the names. Sorry, boys and girls. Saul gets so upset that Ahimelech had helped David. And so he goes to where Ahimelech is, and Saul actually orders for all of the priests to be killed. He said, you guys helped David, you should be killed. Well, the priests actually didn't even know that David was running from Saul at the time, but they had helped out David. Well, one escapes. Ahimelech's son, Abiathar, escapes. And he goes to David and he's like, David, all of my family has been killed. All of the priests have been killed because we helped you. And Saul is so upset. Well, David, he listens to Abiathar and he says, Abiathar, stay here with me. Okay, you're wanted, I'm wanted. Stay here. I'll help protect you. Well, shortly thereafter, David finds out that in the area called Keilah, that the Philistines have attacked. The Philistines do not like the Israelites. Way back to when we talked about Samson. The Philistines are God's enemy. They're the nation of Israel's enemy. Well, they've attacked, and David goes, what do I do? Like, he's unsure. So should I go attack the Philistines? Should I not attack the Philistines? I'm on the run from Saul. What should I do? And what should we do, boys and girls, when we don't know what to do? What's a good answer? Because the same thing David does is the same thing you and I should do, boys and girls. That's right, Peter. David prayed. David went to God. He said, God, the Philistines are attacking at Keilah. What should I do? And he felt that God wanted him to go, that God wanted him to attack the Philistines. Well, David tells his 400 men this. He's like, all right, we're going to go attack the Philistines. And they're like, no, we're out. Forget that, David. We're not going to go do that. And David's like, all right, I'll pray again and ask God. And he does. He prays, he asks God, should we attack the Philistines? And God answers him. God says, yes, you should attack the Philistines. So he goes, he attacks them, he defeats them. He has God on his side. He has God's power. Well, it's still not over for David. Poor David, he's still on the run from Saul, even though he's seen this great victory in Keilah. And he says, Saul finds out. David's in Keilah. David's attacked the Philistines. So Saul's on his way to get him. Problem, Keilah is a fenced-in city. So if Saul gets there, he's going to be able to easily take David. Now David is unsure again. What do I do? So David prays. David asks God, Saul's on his way. I'm in a fenced-in city. Are these people going to give me over? Are they going to essentially tell on me? And God says, yes, they are. They're going to tell on you. David's like, okay. So David, that's right, Peter, David just gets out of there. He's like, all right, we cannot stay here in Keilah because Saul is on the way, and the men of Keilah, even though we've just rescued them from the Philistines, are going to rat us out. They're going to tell on us. So David gets out of Keilah. Boys and girls, we're going to find throughout David's life that when he doesn't know what to do, his response is to pray. His response is to talk to God, to ask God for wisdom. Have you ever done that, boys and girls? Anytime in your life when you haven't known what to do and you've asked God, what should I do? I know you're not at the position of choosing a job or where you should live or buying a house, those big decisions. But boys and girls, you make decisions every day. Do you ask God for help with those decisions, or do you just make them all on your own? Thankfully, you have mom and dad or grandparents around who can help you with decisions, and that's how God designed it, so when we're young, we can seek wisdom. But God wants us to come to him. Boys and girls, I hope in this next week, as you come up with different situations, that you'll ask God for his help, just like David did. Just like David wasn't alone, David had God. You're not alone. You have God. Remember, take everything to God this week. Pray to him because he loves you.